Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today, doing the 2021 Boxing Awards continue. My annual awards continue, and this one is going to be the award for Fight of the Year. We are getting closer and closer to being done with all these, and then I'll be moving into my top 10s. But the Fight of the Year. Definition of that is just back and forth action, the toe-to-toe close fights, or fights that should be scored close, where it's just back and forth action and an overall entertaining fight to watch. Last year's winner, I believe, was Jose Cepeda and Ivan Barianchik, and their all-out 8-round knockdown war, and I was, that was really surprised everybody at how great of a fight that was. And you couldn't pass on it. Not every year you get fights like that are at the top of the division, but that was the one that won it for last year. So this one shouldn't go as long as some of my other awards because it's pretty simple. I give out my who I thought was the best one for each division, and then I break down my top 5. Get into a little more detail. But let's jump into it. We start with 122. The Fight of the Year for me was Brandon Figueroa versus Stephen Fulton Jr. There's a lot at stake. They were unifying belts, trying to prove who the top guy or the other unified champion would be next to MJ Marajan Akhmadaliev, and they both had a lot to prove. Brandon Figueroa is the undefeated WBC champion, just captured the belt with his career best win over Luis Neri. And Stephen Fulton Jr. was the undefeated WBO champion, who was coming off his career best win over Angelo Leo. So this is a big time fight. They went toe to toe. Figueroa threw more punches. He landed more punches, but Stephen Fulton landed the cleaner, harder shots. And when the scorecards, it was toe to toe, back and forth. And when the scorecards were read, Stephen Fulton won by a close majority decision. Some people can argue, but again, I've said this, it's a pick your poison type fight right here. Do you like more punches or do you like cleaner punches landed? It's really what you see as the more scoring points. And, the judges gave it to Stephen Fulton Jr. 126, Fight of the Year. I gave it to Mark Magsayo versus Julio Ceja. These two guys, it was a WBC eliminator, trying to prove themselves. Ceja was a former champion at 122, and Magsayo, this is the biggest fight of his career, taking on a veteran like Ceja. They went toe-to-toe. It was a really good action-packed fight, as a lot of the little guys will put on for you. But it ended up being, Ceja ended up taking over in the middle of the fight, taking over. He pulled ahead on all 3 cards, and then in the 10th round, he got caught with a fucking mean right hand and knocked out cold. So it was an ebb and flow. It was back and forth. And then behind on the scorecards, Magsayo scored an impressive knockout victory and really pushed himself forward. So that was a Fight of the Year at 126. 130, I gave it to Rene Alvarado versus Roger Gutierrez 2, their rematch that took place in January. This fight was good. Their first fight was years before. Alvarado scored a 7th round knockout win. Gutierrez had revenge on his mind. Alvarado wanted to leave no doubt, and they went at it. It was a very good action-packed fight, but Alvarado would go down a couple times earlier in the fight. I think around rounds 3, rounds 2 and 3. And then Alvarado seemed to take the fight over. It was outworking Gutierrez, but Gutierrez was staying in the fight. It was all action, close. And then in the 12th round, Gutierrez landed a big punch that put Alvarado down for a 3rd time. He got up. They finished. They went to the scorecards, and wouldn't you know it, that Roger Gutierrez walked away with a 1 point on all 3 judges' scorecards, unanimous decision to become the new WBA champion with that win. Now, it was shocking because Alvarado literally on all 3 scorecards won 7 rounds to 5, but the 3 knockdowns, taking those points away from Alvarado, caused him to lose on the scorecards, 113 to 112 on all 3 scorecards. That was insane. and it was that last knockdown that did it, or the fight would have been a draw. But it was a great fight between the two. They went toe-to-toe. 135 lightweight. Gotta be Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos for the unified title. They went at it. This was an all-out war. Lopez came out with bad intentions, trying to get Kambosos out of there quick. Kambosos knocked him down in the first round, and then from there it was just a firefight. Lopez was headhunting and then boxing at moments, taking over the fight, but Kambosos was outworking him. And they went into the 10th round. Lopez landed a big shot and put Kambosos down finally. Looked like it was over. Championship rounds. Kambosos steals the thunder back and wins the championship rounds, and it won him the fight. A 12-round split decision. Great action-packed back-and-forth fight right here. Very much so enjoyed it. 140, fight of the year. I got to go Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez for to unify all 4 belts and become the undisputed champion right here. These two guys were top number 1 and 2 in the division, and they wanted it. Both of them did. It was close early on. Then Taylor hurt Ramirez, put him down. Then in the 6th round, he almost had Ramirez out on his feet. And I really thought the ref was going to stop the fight. Ramirez was hurt badly. But then he weathered that storm over the next couple rounds. Taylor was well ahead, and then Ramirez in the championship rounds came on strong, won a couple, made it closer. They went to the scorecards. Taylor took a unanimous decision, but those 2 knockdowns were the difference. On I think 2 of the cards, he won by 2 points. So those 2 knockdowns made the difference in the fight. Josh Taylor and Ramirez, though, laid it all out there for being the top 2 guys in the division. 147, fight of the year. I got to go with Terrence Crawford versus Sean Porter for the WBO welterweight title. This was great. You know, a lot to prove for both guys right here. Is Crawford on the elite level at welterweight? Is Porter still at the top of the division? An answer would need to happen, and it would happen as they went toe-to-toe. It was a great fight. Crawford was setting up his big shots, but Porter kept coming at him. Finally, heading into the 10th round, Porter was down by 1 point on two scorecards and 2 points on the 3rd. It was still a tight fight. Then Crawford landed a big uppercut, put Porter down, and Porter got up and then went down again from the following barrage. Finally, before he could get up, he was angry that he had been put down. His dad threw in the towel, and Terrence Crawford retained the welterweight title in a great action-packed title fight. 154, fight of the year, Jermell Charlo versus Brian Castano to unify all 4 belts to become an undisputed champion. These 2 guys, 1 and 2 in the division, both with the same promotion, so it was an easy fight to make after Castano captured the belt in February. A lot of people wanted to see if Charlo was the best in the division. Castano was undefeated. Very big fight right here between these 2 to determine an undisputed world champion. They went toe-to-toe. This is a great fight. Castano got hurt early in the fight. Then he seemed to take the fight over. Outworked Charlo. All the middle rounds seemed outworking him, pressuring him, outworking him. And then Charlo hurt Castano again in the 9th or 10th round, and then swept those rounds. Charlo would win the championship rounds. He would win the 10th and the championship rounds. And people were just like, what the fuck happened? Great fight right here. Went to the scorecards, but most people, it was declared a draw, even though most people, myself included, felt that Castano deserved the nod. It went to the scorecards, ended up being a draw, but a great fight nonetheless right there. Okay, 160 middleweight. I gave it to Carlos Adames versus Sergey Derevyanchenko. Middleweight showdown right here. Derevyanchenko was coming in 15-month layoff. Adames was trying to establish himself at middleweight, making his debut, and they ended up going at it on a Gervonta Davis, Isaac Cruz undercard. Went toe-to-toe for 10 rounds. Adames walked away with a close majority decision to establish himself in the middleweight division. 168 super middleweight. I gave it to Laron Richards versus Carlos Gongora. This is 2 guys trying to establish themselves, undefeated prospects on the rise. Laron Richards took a split decision in this one over Gongora, so that was a very close fight. 175. Joe Smith versus Maxime Vlasov for the vacant WBO title. This was a big fight right here. A lot of people thought Joe Smith was just going to walk right over Vlasov. I didn't. I predicted this to be a close fight, and it was. These two guys went at it. Joe Smith, the brawler, against the veteran Vlasov, who's fearless. They went toe-to-toe. Joe Smith walked away with a very close majority decision as he captured his first world title. 200 cruiserweight, I did not have a candidate because there really weren't that many high-profile, hardly at all, cruiserweight fights, and the ones there were not close fights or back and forth fights, so there's no candidate. But I had 3 candidates at heavyweight. Number 3, Joseph Parker against Derek Chisora 2, their rematch. That was number 3, the rematch was. The rematch was very good. Parker would end up winning by a more clean decision in the rematch, but not without adversity. He was seemingly outworking Chisora for the first half of the fight. Then he landed a huge uppercut, put him down. It looked like it was going to be over. And then out of nowhere, Chisora just showed a ton of heart, got himself back into it, and in the late round just came on strong and really made it close and hard fought. Finished the fight. Parker walked away with a close decision, or with a deserving decision, but hard fought. Very good fight. Number 2 goes to Parker versus Chisora 1 that took place in May. This fight was a firefight. I think Parker was overlooking Chisora heading into this one. Wasn't expecting Chisora to be a threat for him, and he got his ass pushed in this one. Parker had to work hard. I feel like he outworked Chisora for a decision, but it was very close. Went to the scorecards. Split decision win for Joseph Parker. Good ass fight. But the fight of the year at heavyweight, hands down, Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3. What a fucking fight. These two guys, the build-up, everything was all into this fight, and they just had to get it delivered. And you didn't know what the fuck was going to happen. That was the craziest thing about this fight, is you didn't know what was gonna happen at any moment. It was so back and forth, and that's why it was such a great fight. Fury ends up winning this one by an 11th round knockout. And I'll get into that because it did make the top 5. But let's look at the top 5 fights of the year for 2021. You heard all the candidates. Number 5, I gave it to Parker versus Chisora 1. That was just such a back and forth heavyweight fight. 2 big guys just chucking, throwing hard shots. Parker more of the boxer, trying to keep the hard puncher Chisora off of him. Good action-packed fight, was back and forth. Parker wins by split decision. That's number 5 for me. Number 4, Terrence Crawford and Sean Porter for the WBO welterweight title. This is a big fight. These two guys went at it. It was fun to watch, as you really didn't see Crawford have to work this hard late into a fight, and he was getting pushed, and Sean Porter just always delivers, makes it a close fight. Finally, Porter landed a punch he'd been setting up all fight, that lead uppercut, put down Porter. Porter got up, put down again. He was angry, he was mad. He wasn't badly hurt, but he was stunned, and his dad would throw in the towel. But a great welterweight action-packed fight between 2 top-tier, cream of the crop fighters. Number 3 on the year, I gotta go with Jermell Charlo against Brian Castano. The back and forth in this fight was insane. That's what I look for a lot of, is the back and forth where you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. And, the fact that Charlo hurt Castano early, and then Castano outworked him for the middle of the fight, all the way through to like the 9th round. And then, boom, Castano gets hurt again by a big shot by Charlo. And then Charlo goes out and wins the championship rounds. It was close, it was tight, and I thought Castano won 7-5, but the fact that Charlo won the championship rounds made the fight close, and that made it an ebb and flow back and forth fight, and it ended in a draw. Rematch is coming. These two guys have already agreed to terms, and a rematch is coming, likely in February or March, so make sure you're paying attention. Number 2, I gave it to Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos. Another ebb and flow, back and forth fight. You didn't know what was going to happen in this one. Kambosos hurt Lopez early, and you're like, oh shit, are we going to see an upset? And then you just were waiting for Lopez to finally take over the fight, to finally realize that he was in there with a good fighter. And every time it seemed like that was going to happen, Kambosos would land and outwork him in a round. And then you're like, wait a minute, Kambosos won that round. What the hell happened? And it just kept on like that. Lopez headhunting instead of boxing. And then when he boxed, he would take over for a momentary lapse, and then boom, he would try to end it with one punch, and Kambosos would outwork him again. And then in the 10th round, he puts Kambosos down, and you're like, all right, this is it. He's finally got him. He's got him. And then boom, Kambosos finds his legs. Championship rounds, he takes over the fight, and that's what punched him the ticket to becoming the new unified lightweight champion of the world. I mean, that was huge. A major upset, but a great action-packed fight. That finishes number 2 for 2021. But number 1 for me, without question, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder 3. This fight was fucking amazing. It had everything. It was the 3rd fight between these two guys. You had a big favorite in Fury, yes, but you had an underdog with lightning and thunder in his hands. And you're like, hey, all it takes is one with Wilder. But you didn't know, and you're like, fuck, Wilder's got to know something that we don't, that he really believes that he can pull off this win. Why else would he want to sue Fury to get him back in the ring? And Fury, you're like, hey, first time he's a favorite in a major fight. Can he pull this one off again and leave no doubt? And you just didn't know from the start to the finish what the fuck was going to happen. The first round, Wilder comes out throwing hard jabs to the body, left hands to the body, and you're like, oh shit, Wilder decides he's going to box in this one. We might have a good fight here. And right at the end of the first round, Fury lands a boom, boom, 1-2. And you could tell it shook Wilder. Wilder was like, oh shit. And you're like, okay, cool. Second round, Fury. It looked like the 7th round, the 6th and 7th round of their second fight. And you were like, okay, it looks like Fury's taking over. 3rd round, he puts Wilder down hard, and you're like, all right, this fight's over even faster than the first fight. Heading into the 4th round, Fury's pressing forward. He leads with his head. Wilder lands a short right hand that crushed Fury, put him down hard. Fury gets up. Boom. Wilder puts him down again. Barely beats the count both times in the 4th round. And you're like, what the fuck? Then in the 5th round, Fury finds his legs. He gets back into the fight. You can tell Wilder's tired. Fury gets back into the fight. 6th, 7th, 8th round, all the same thing. Fury takes the fight back over, and you're like, okay, he's got this. And every time it looked like he might have Deontay Wilder out on his feet, Deontay Wilder would land a shot, a big shot that would back Fury off or stun him momentarily, and you're like, holy fuck, what is going to happen here? That went from the 6th through the 9th round, the same thing. But the one thing that was noticeable, but you had to really pay attention, was that Wilder was getting tired. You just didn't know how tired because he kept getting up. Then in the 10th round, Fury puts him down again. Now, between the 3 fights, 4 knockdowns to 4 knockdowns between the 2 fighters. And you're like, holy shit, is it finally going to be over? Wilder gets back to his feet. The bell rings. We go to the 11th round. But there's something heading into that 11th round that was a little bit more, Fury might have this one. And then Fury, instead of settling for a decision, he went after Wilder. And a monster overhand right would face plant Deontay Wilder, knocking him out. And Tyson Fury would leave no doubt defeating Deontay Wilder in their epic and magical 3rd fight, as he would retain the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the world. This fight was amazing. It delivered. You just did not know what the fuck was going to happen. And to me, that is all. This was everything that you want out of a fight of the year. It had the build-up. It had the, the announcer said it, but you don't know kind of feel to it going in. And then it just delivered in a way that you were not fucking expecting whatsoever. And you didn't know who the winner was going to be all the way down till Fury put him down for the final count. And that was awesome. So to me, absolutely the 2021 True Boxing Fight of the Year. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3. Go back and watch it again. I might just do it myself. Great fight. Hope you guys enjoyed it. True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.